I found my apartment on a website that doesn't exist anymore. I've been sitting on this story for almost 3 years now. Every time I tried to write it down or talk about it, I'd feel this tightness in my chest, like something was physically stopping me. But I think it's time. I need to get this out, even if nobody believes me, even if you think I'm crazy by the end of this. Because what happened to me in that apartment, what I saw what I felt it changed something fundamental about how I understand reality. My name's Danny, and in the fall of 2021, I moved to Portland, Oregon for a marketing job at a startup. Nothing fancy, just enough to get by in a city I'd always wanted to live in. I was 26, single, and honestly just excited for a fresh start after a pretty brutal breakup back in Chicago. You know that feeling when you just want to be somewhere nobody knows your name? That was me. The apartment hunt was hell. Anyone who's looked for housing in Portland knows what I'm talking about. Everything decent was either way out of my budget or already rented by the time I showed up to viewings. I must have looked at 15 places in 2 weeks, staying in an Airbnb that was eating through my savings. I was getting desperate. That's when I found the listing. It was on this rental site I'd never heard of before, something like Padfinder or Flatseeker. I honestly can't remember the exact name. A friend from work had mentioned it in passing, said they found hidden gems there sometimes. The site had this outdated, almost early 2000s design. You know, basic blue hyperlinks times new Roman font, no fancy photos or virtual tour, just addresses and contact information. The listing for 1847 NW Hoyt Street, apartment 201, caught my eye immediately. The rent was $950 a month for a one-bedroom in the Pearl District. That's absurdly cheap for that area. The description was brief: quiet building, hardwood floors, good natural light, available immediately, first month plus deposit. There was a phone number. I called it. A woman answered on the second ring. Her voice was pleasant, professional, maybe in her 50s. She introduced herself as Mrs. Gaines and said yes, the apartment was still available. Could I come see it that afternoon? I met her outside the building 2 hours later. It was a beautiful October day. One of those crisp afternoons where the light hits the trees just right and everything looks like a postcard. The building itself was a classic Portland 4-story walk-up, probably built in the 1920s. Brick facade, white-trimmed windows, well-maintained. Mrs. Gaines was standing on the front steps, a small woman in a cardigan, gray hair pulled back in a bun, warm smile. "You must be Danny," she said, shaking my hand. Her grip was surprisingly firm. "Come on up, I think you're going to love it." The building's lobby had character, original tile work, brass mailboxes, the smell of old wood and lemon furniture polish. We climbed to the second floor and she unlocked 201. The door opened smoothly, no creaking or sticking. And honestly, the place was perfect. Hardwood floors that gleamed in the afternoon sun. High ceilings with original crown molding. A kitchen that was small but updated. A bedroom with a huge window overlooking the street. The bathroom had one of those old clawfoot tubs. For $950 a month, it felt like I'd won the lottery. "Why is it so affordable?" I asked, trying not to sound suspicious but unable to help myself. Mrs. Gaines smiled. "The owner likes to keep rents reasonable. He's had this building a long time, not in it for maximum profit, you know. Just wants good tenants who will take care of the place." That should have been my first red flag. In retrospect, it's almost funny how eager I was to accept that explanation. But I was tired, I was stressed, and I wanted to believe it. I told her I'd take it. We went back to her car, a beige Volvo sedan parked down the street where she had the paperwork. Standard lease agreement, 1-year term. I signed it in the passenger seat, wrote her a check for first month and deposit, and she handed me the keys. 2 brass keys on a plain metal ring. "You're all set," she said. "Trash pickup is Tuesdays. Laundry in the basement, quarters only. Any problems, call the number on the lease." I thanked her profusely. She drove away and I stood there on the sidewalk, keys in my hand, genuinely happy for the first time in months. I moved in 3 days later with the help of a couple coworkers. My stuff wasn't much: a futon, a desk, some boxes of clothes and books, my computer set up. We had everything inside in 2 hours. I bought them pizza, they left, and I spent my first evening in the apartment organizing and feeling pretty damn good about life. That first week was normal, better than normal actually. I loved the neighborhood, coffee shops everywhere, good restaurants, Powell's Books a few blocks away. I loved walking home from work through the tree-lined streets. The apartment stayed consistently cool, even when I forgot to open windows. I slept better than I had in years. The building was quiet too. I'd occasionally hear footsteps from the apartment above mine, but nothing excessive. I never ran into neighbors in the hallway, which I actually appreciated. I'm not antisocial, but I wasn't looking to make friends with everyone in my building either. It was on the 8th night that I first noticed something odd. I woke up around 3 in the morning, wide awake for no apparent reason. You know that feeling where you go from deep sleep to total alertness in an instant. My heart was racing slightly, like I'd had a nightmare, but I couldn't remember dreaming at all. I lay there in the darkness, listening. The apartment was silent. Street sounds drifted up from outside, a car passing, someone's distant laughter. Normal city noise, but something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. Then I realized I could see my bedroom perfectly clearly. Not like daylight clear, but I could make out details, the grain in the wood floor, the individual spines of books on my shelf, the texture of the ceiling. It was the middle of the night. My curtains were drawn. There was no street light directly outside my window. There shouldn't have been enough light to see anything more than vague shapes. I sat up, looking around. The quality of the light was wrong somehow. It wasn't coming from any particular source. It just existed, like the faintest possible luminescence was emanating from the walls themselves. I got out of bed and walked to the window, pulled back the curtain. The street outside was dark, exactly as dark as it should be at 3 a.m. I looked back into the room. The strange ambient light was still there. I stood in the doorway to my bedroom, trying to rationalize it. Maybe my eyes had just adjusted really well. Maybe there was some reflection I wasn't accounting for. I walked through the apartment, checking every room. The same gentle, sourceless illumination filled every space. In the bathroom, I flipped the light switch. The overhead bulb came on, harsh and yellow, and when I turned it off again, the subtle glow seemed even more noticeable by contrast. I didn't feel scared exactly, more confused, maybe still half asleep. I went back to bed and eventually dozed off, and when I woke up at 7, morning sunlight was streaming through the windows, and everything looked completely normal. I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Work was busy that week. We were launching a campaign for a client, lots of late nights. I'd come home exhausted, eat something quick, maybe watch half an episode of whatever on Netflix before passing out. The apartment faded into the background of my awareness, just the place where I slept and showered between work sessions. But there were small things. I'd put my keys on the kitchen counter when I came home, right by the coffee maker. I did this every single day. It was automatic. 3 times in 2 weeks, I came out in the morning and found them on the bookshelf in the living room instead. Not hidden, just sitting on a different shelf each time. I lived alone. I know I put them on the counter. I told myself I was just tired, forgetting things. Stress does weird things to your memory. Then there was the temperature thing. It was late October now, getting chilly outside. My coworkers were all complaining about their heating bills starting to kick in. But my apartment stayed this perfect, consistent temperature, maybe 68 degrees, without me ever adjusting anything. I couldn't even find a thermostat. I'd looked when I first moved in and assumed it was controlled centrally by the building or something. But on a particularly cold night, when it was in the low 40s outside, I realized I hadn't heard the radiators come on once. The old cast iron radiators under each window were completely cold to the touch. The apartment should have been freezing. It wasn't. I put my hand against the wall and I swear it felt warm. Not hot, just body temperature, like the walls themselves were generating heat. I jerked my hand back, disturbed by the thought, by how alive * it made the apartment feel. That's when I started having the dreams, not nightmares exactly. I'd be in the apartment doing normal things, making coffee, reading, working on my laptop, but everything would be slightly wrong. The walls would be breathing, just barely, the way your chest moves when you sleep. The windows would show scenes that didn't match reality. Summer when it was winter, daylight at midnight, rain falling upward. In the dreams, I'd notice these things but wouldn't react. I'd just keep doing whatever I was doing, making coffee while the walls pulsed slowly in and out, typing emails while rain ran up the window pane like the world was rewinding. And there was always a door. In my actual apartment, there were 4 doors: front door, bedroom door, bathroom door, and a small closet in the hallway. But in the dreams, there was a 5th door. It was in the living room on a wall where my bookshelf stood in real life. The door was white, just like all the others, with a brass knob. It always stood slightly ajar, maybe an inch or two, and there was darkness beyond it. Not the darkness of an unlit room, the darkness of asterisk nothing. I never opened it in the dreams. I never even approached it, but I was always aware of it in my peripheral vision, that crack of absolute void. I'd wake from these dreams with my heart pounding, and I'd immediately look at the wall where the dream door had been. Just my bookshelf, books, and a framed poster, solid wall. But I started feeling like the apartment was watching me. I know how that sounds, but you know that feeling you get when someone's staring at you, that prickle of awareness on the back of your neck. I started feeling that constantly when I was home. I'd be cooking dinner and suddenly spin around, certain someone was behind me. Nothing, always nothing. I'd be in the shower and feel absolutely convinced that if I opened my eyes, someone would be standing on the other side of the curtain. I started showering with my eyes open, which sounds ridiculous, but the fear was real. November arrived. The rainy season started in earnest. I'd been living there about 5 weeks. That's when I met Marcus. I was getting my mail in the lobby. I'd been too busy to check it for a few days, and my little box was stuffed full when someone came down the stairs. A guy about my age, black tall, wearing a Trailblazers hoodie. He nodded at me. "You're in 201, right?" he said. "Moved in last month." "Yeah," I said, relieved to interact with an actual neighbor finally. "Danny, Marcus, 301, he shook my hand, "right above you." "Oh, cool. Sorry if I've been noisy or anything." He gave me an odd look. "Nah, man, haven't heard a thing from your place, actually." He paused, like he was deciding whether to continue. "Actually, I thought that unit was empty until I saw you moving in." "Didn't hear nothing before that either. How long have you lived here?" "About 8 months. He shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable. "Look, I don't want to freak you out or anything, but..." "How'd you find this place?" The question struck me as strange. "Online listing." "Why? What site?" I tried to remember the name. It had completely escaped me. "Some rental site, Padfinder or..." "I honestly can't remember." Marcus nodded slowly. "Yeah, me too. Can't remember the name of the site either." "Weird, right?" We stood there in the lobby, both of us suddenly uneasy. "Who'd you meet with when you saw the place?" he asked. "Mrs. Gaines, older woman, gray hair, nice." "Yeah," Marcus interrupted. "Same person I met with." "That was 8 months ago." He lowered his voice. "I tried to look up the building owner once, for tax records and stuff, just curious, couldn't find anything. And I tried to pull up that rental website again, wanted to leave a review. The URL I had bookmarked, it doesn't work anymore, like the site just doesn't exist." Cold spread through my chest. "That's probably just a coincidence." "Probably," Marcus said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Look, your apartment, it feel okay to you?" "What do you mean?" He studied my face, then shook his head. "Never mind, I'm probably just being paranoid. Portland can mess with your head sometimes, especially in winter. Too much rain, not enough sun." He forced a smile. "Anyway, good to meet you. Let me know if you ever want to grab a beer or something." "Yeah, definitely." He headed out the front door, and I stood there with my mail, his words echoing in my head. "Your apartment, it feel okay to you?" No, it didn't feel okay. And now that someone else had acknowledged something was off, I couldn't pretend anymore. That evening, I tried to find the rental website. I searched every variation I could think of: Padfinder, Flatseeker, Portland Rentals, everything. I went through my browser history, my emails, looking for any confirmation or communication from when I'd found the listing. Nothing. It was like it had been erased. I found the lease agreement in my desk drawer and pulled it out, reading it carefully for the first time since I'd signed it. The property owner was listed as Hoyt Street Properties, LLC. I Googled it. No results, not a single hit. I searched the Oregon Secretary of State Business Registry. The LLC didn't exist. The phone number Mrs. Gaines had given me, I called it, disconnected. My stomach was turning. How was I paying rent to a company that didn't exist? I looked at my bank statements. Sure enough, my rent checks had been cashed, but when I looked at the deposit information, it just said Mobile Deposit with no account holder name. I sat at my kitchen table as the rain hammered against the windows, trying to piece together what this meant. Was this some kind of scam? But what kind of scam involves actually renting someone an apartment at below market rates and leaving them alone? And Marcus had been here for 8 months. If this was illegal, wouldn't something have happened by now? That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain. And gradually I became aware of another sound underneath it. Breathing, slow, deep breaths, in and out, in and out. I held my own breath, listening. The sound continued, rhythmic and steady. It was coming from everywhere and nowhere, like the apartment itself was breathing around me. I turned on my bedside lamp. The sound stopped immediately. My hands were shaking. I got up, turned on every light in the apartment, and sat on my futon in the living room until dawn, afraid to close my eyes. When the sun came up, I felt ridiculous. I was exhausted, jumpy, probably experiencing some kind of stress-induced paranoia. I called in sick to work, something I never did, and spent the day researching the building, the address, anything I could find. 1847 NW Hoyt Street showed up in property records going back decades. The building was built in 1923, had changed hands a few times over the years, but there was nothing unusual. No deaths, no disasters, no sordid history, just a normal old building. But I couldn't find current ownership information. The trail went cold around 2015. I looked up Mrs. Gaines. There were plenty of people with that name in the Portland area, but none that matched the woman I'd met. I tried to remember more details about her, what she was wearing, the car she drove, anything specific. But when I focused on the memory, it seemed to slip away, like trying to remember a dream. Over the next week, the phenomena in the apartment intensified. I'd come home to find furniture moved. Not dramatically. My desk would be 6 inches to the left, the coffee table rotated slightly. Small changes that I might not have noticed if I wasn't looking for them. But I lived alone, and I sure as hell wasn't moving furniture unconsciously. The ambient light at night became brighter. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and the apartment would be filled with that sourceless glow, bright enough now that I could read by it. And the sounds, footsteps in the hallway outside my door at odd hours. But when I looked through the peephole, no one was there. Voices, muffled, like a conversation in another room, but I couldn't make out words. Once I heard what sounded like a child laughing, high and bright, coming from inside my bedroom closet. I tore the closet apart, nothing but my clothes and shoes. I started staying at the office later and later, dreading going home. My coworkers noticed I looked exhausted. I made excuses about insomnia, allergies, anything to avoid explaining the truth. Because what was the truth? That my apartment was haunted, that I'd rented a place from a ghost landlady. It sounded insane even to me. But then I'd remember Marcus saying he couldn't find the website either, that he'd met the same woman. That meant I wasn't crazy. It meant something real was happening. I knocked on his door one evening, no answer. I tried several more times over the next few days. His car wasn't in the building's parking area. After a week, I started to seriously worry. Had something happened to him? I was in the lobby checking my mail when I ran into someone from 401, a woman in her 30s with purple streaks in her hair. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know Marcus from 301? Have you seen him around?" She looked at me blankly. "I don't think anyone lives in 301. That unit's been empty since I moved in." "What?" "No, I talked to him a couple weeks ago. Tall guy, Trailblazers hoodie." She shook her head. "I've never seen anyone go in or out of that apartment." "Are you sure you've got the right unit number?" "I'm sure," he said. 301. "Huh, well, I don't know what to tell you." She looked uncomfortable and hurried out the front door. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, my heart hammering, stood in front of apartment 301. The door was identical to mine, white, brass knob, peephole. I knocked, silence. I pressed my ear to the door, nothing, no sound of movement, no TV, no signs of life. I tried the knob, expecting it to be locked. It turned, the door swung open into darkness. Not the darkness of an unlit apartment, I mean complete, absolute darkness. The kind that shouldn't exist inside a building with windows. I fumbled for a light switch inside the doorframe, found one, flipped it up. Nothing happened. The darkness didn't change. It was like looking into the door from my dreams, that crack of void. I pulled out my phone, turned on the flashlight, and shined it into the apartment. The beam didn't penetrate. The light just stopped at the threshold, like there was a wall of black water beyond the doorway. I heard myself make a small, frightened sound. I backed away, pulled the door shut, and practically ran back down the stairs to my apartment. That night, I seriously considered breaking my lease and moving out. I didn't care about losing my deposit. I'd sleep in my car if I had to, but something stopped me. Maybe stubbornness, maybe denial. This was my apartment. I'd signed a lease. I'd set up my life here. And where would I go if I tried to explain why I was leaving? I'd sound delusional, so I stayed. I started documenting everything. I set up my laptop to record video while I was at work, pointed at my living room. I took photos of exactly how I left things each morning so I could check if anything moved. The video recordings were corrupted, every single one. The files would show as the right length 8 hours, 9 hours, but when I tried to play them, just static or a frozen frame. The photos were worse. In every photo I took of the apartment, there was something wrong. Shadows that fell in the wrong direction, reflections in the windows that didn't match the room. And in 3 of the photos, standing in the hallway visible through my open bedroom door, there was a figure. Blurry, indistinct, but definitely human-shaped, tall, dark, motionless. I deleted the photos immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely work my phone. December came. The winter darkness settled over Portland. By 4:30 in the afternoon, it would be full night. I'd come home from work in the dark, spend the evening in that too-bright apartment, go to bed in the dark. The dreams became more vivid and more disturbing. I'd dream I was walking through the apartment, and every surface I touched felt like skin. Warm, slightly yielding, unmistakably alive. In the dreams, this didn't frighten me. I'd run my hand along the walls the way you might pet a dog, casual and familiar. The dream door was always there now, standing wide open. And I could see things moving in the darkness beyond it, not clearly, just suggestions of movement, like fish in deep water. Sometimes in the dreams, I'd hear a voice calling my name. Not threatening, almost affectionate, the way someone might call to you from another room in your home. Danny, Danny, come here. I want to show you something. I'd start walking toward the door, and right before I reached it, I'd wake up, gasping. One night in mid-December, I woke to find myself standing in my living room. Not sitting up in bed, not getting up to use the bathroom. I woke up standing in the middle of the room in total darkness, facing the wall where my bookshelf was. I had no memory of getting up. No memory of walking there. Terror washed over me, pure and primal. I scrambled backward, hit the futon, fell onto it, reached for my phone with shaking hands, turned on the flashlight. The apartment looked normal, the bookshelf was just a bookshelf, but I could feel it, something was different. The air felt thicker, the silence felt asterisk occupied. "Who are you?" I whispered into the darkness. "What do you want?" The silence deepened, and then so softly I almost didn't hear it, a voice responded. "You already know." It came from everywhere. From the walls, the ceiling, the floor, a whisper that bypassed my ears and formed directly in my mind. I ran. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, my phone, and I ran out of that apartment, down the stairs, out into the freezing December night in just sweatpants and a t-shirt. I got in my car and drove, no destination in mind, just away. I ended up at a 24-hour diner on 82nd Avenue, sitting in a booth, drinking terrible coffee, trying to stop shaking. A few other lost souls scattered around the place, a couple of late shift workers, someone who might have been homeless sleeping in a corner booth that the staff was kindly ignoring. I stayed until sunrise, then I drove to work, even though it was Saturday. I used the gym in our office building to shower and change into spare clothes I kept in my desk. I worked all day on nothing, just to have somewhere to be that wasn't the apartment. When evening came, I had to face reality. I had nowhere else to go. I couldn't afford a hotel long-term. I couldn't explain this to anyone without sounding insane. I drove back to the apartment as the winter dark fell over the city. The building looked the same as always, warm light in some windows. The brick facade solid and real. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, gathering courage. Finally, I went inside. The lobby was quiet. I climbed to the second floor, my footsteps echoing. Stood outside my door, key in hand. I unlocked it and stepped inside. Everything was exactly as I'd left it in my panic the night before. Futon askew where I'd fallen onto it. My bedside lamp still on in the bedroom, normal, unthreatening, but I could feel it now. Once you become aware of it, you can't unfeel it. The apartment was alive, it was aware, and it knew I knew. I walked slowly through the rooms, turning on every light. "Okay," I said out loud. "I don't understand what you are or what you want, but this is where I live. I don't have anywhere else to go, so we need to coexist." No response, just the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic outside. I made myself dinner, pasta, simple, automatic movements. I ate sitting at my kitchen table, hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow, but nothing happened. The apartment remained still. Maybe I'd imagined the voice. Maybe I'd been sleepwalking and had a hypnagogic hallucination. The mind can do strange things when stressed and sleep-deprived. I wanted to believe that so badly. I got ready for bed, brushed my teeth, changed into pajamas, lay down in my bed and stared at the ceiling, waiting for sleep that I was sure wouldn't come, but I was exhausted. Eventually, despite everything, I drifted off, and I had the dream again. I was in the apartment, the walls breathing, the windows showing impossible views. And the door was there, standing open, that darkness beyond, but this time I could see into it. The darkness resolved into a room. It was furnished like a living room from another era, 1940s maybe, or 50s. Floral wallpaper, a radio and a wooden cabinet, a green velvet sofa, warm light from table lamps, cozy, inviting. And there were people in it. They were indistinct, like old photographs that had faded, but I could see them, a family. Parents and two children sitting together, the father reading a newspaper, the mother knitting, the kids playing with toys on a rug. They looked happy, safe. One of the children looked up at me and smiled, waved. I stepped toward the door. Danny, my mother's voice. I spun around. She was standing in my kitchen, wearing the blue dress she'd worn to my college graduation. She'd been dead for 4 years. Mom, she smiled at me, that familiar warm smile. You look so tired, honey. Come here, come rest. I knew this wasn't real, I knew it, but God, I wanted it to be. I wanted to go to her, to feel her hug me the way she used to. I took a step forward. Danny, no, a different voice, male, urgent. I turned again. Marcus was standing in the doorway from my bedroom, not dream Marcus, but solid and real and terrified. Don't go to her, he said. That's not your mom, that's not. Look, you need to wake up right now, wake up. Marcus, what, wake you pee? I jerked awake, gasping. My bedroom was dark except for that ambient glow. And I wasn't alone, there were people in the room with me. Shadowy figures, maybe 6 or 7 of them, standing around my bed in a circle. They were perfectly still, silent, just standing there. Watching me, I couldn't move, couldn't scream. Terror had locked every muscle. One of them leaned closer. In the dim light, I could almost make out features. A man, middle-aged, wearing clothes from decades ago. He reached out a hand toward my face. I found my voice and screamed. The figures vanished like smoke. I was out of bed, out of the room, in the hallway with my phone and keys in seconds. But this time, instead of running out of the building, I ran upstairs to apartment 301. I pounded on the door. Marcus, Marcus, I know you're in there, please. The door opened. Marcus stood there, very much alive, looking as terrified as I felt. Get in here, he said, pulling me inside. His apartment was identical in layout to mine, but furnished completely differently. Posters on the walls, a gaming setup, actual furniture, normal, real. What the hell is happening? I asked. Sit down, he said, we don't have a lot of time. I sat on his couch. He pulled up a chair, leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees. That woman downstairs who said she'd never seen me, he began. That's because I don't exist to her. I don't exist to anyone in this building except you. And you don't exist to anyone except me. What are you talking about? The apartments 201 and 301, they're not real. I mean, they're real right now, but they shouldn't be. This building was built with 4 units per floor, not 5. But sometimes, when conditions are right, a 5th apartment appears, draws someone in. And once you're in, once I'm in, what? It doesn't want to let you go. The apartment, the building, whatever this thing is, it's alive, conscious, and it feeds on the people it traps. Not all at once, slowly, it keeps you comfortable, keeps you docile until you just fade, become part of it. The people in my room, previous tenants, they've been absorbed. They're part of the structure now, literally. I felt sick. How do you know all this? Because I've been researching for 8 months, trying to find a way out. I've found records, old newspaper articles. People have been disappearing from this building for decades, but it's subtle. The building makes people forget you existed. Your friends, your family, they won't remember you were here. Eventually, they won't remember you at all. That's insane, is it? When's the last time you talked to your family? Your friends from Chicago. I opened my mouth to answer and realized with dawning horror that I couldn't remember. When had I last called my dad, my sister? I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts. The names were there, but when I tried to recall the last conversation, it was like trying to remember a dream from months ago. It's already started for you, Marcus said quietly. The longer you stay, the worse it gets. Eventually, you'll stop existing to anyone in the outside world. And then the apartment will have you completely. Why are you still here then? Why haven't you left? Because I can't. I tried. 3 months ago, I packed everything, loaded my car, drove away. I got as far as Salem before I started feeling it, this pull, like a rubber band stretched to its limit. The pain got worse the farther I drove. By the time I hit Eugene, I thought I was having a heart attack. I turned around, and the moment I got back to Portland, the pain stopped. He stood up, walked to his window, looked out at the dark street. We're tethered to this place now. But I think there might be a way to break the connection. I've been studying everything I can find about this building, about hauntings, about parasitic entities. There's a ritual from an old book I found in the library archives. It requires two people willing to confront it directly. What kind of ritual? We go to the source, the heart of it. There's a room in the basement, behind the laundry, a room that shouldn't be there, just like our apartments. We perform the ritual, sever the connection, and we might be able to get free. Might. The book wasn't exactly clear on success rates. He turned back to me, and in his eyes, I saw the same desperation I felt. But staying here isn't an option. You saw what happens. Eventually we'll fade completely, become like those figures you saw tonight. Trapped forever in someone else's nightmare. I thought about my mother's face in the dream, the warmth of that false memory. How easy it would be to just give in, to let the apartment take me somewhere comfortable and familiar, even if it wasn't real. When? I asked. Tonight, now. It's strongest at night, but that also means it's most present, most real. If we're going to confront it, it has to be when it's awake. My hands were shaking. Every instinct screamed to run, to get out, to be anywhere but here. But Marcus was right. Running hadn't worked for him. It wouldn't work for me. Okay, I said. Let's do it. We went down to the basement together. The stairs were narrow, the walls closed. One bare bulb every 10 feet provided minimal light. The basement was unfinished, concrete floor, exposed pipes, the smell of mildew and old detergent. The laundry room was at the far end, a cramped space with 2 washers and 2 dryers that looked like they were from the 1970s. Marcus led me past them to the back wall. There was a door there that I somehow knew hadn't been there during the day. It was different from the other doors in the building. Old, wooden, with iron hinges and a handle instead of a knob. It looked medieval, wrong for this building, wrong for this century. Marcus pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, unfolded it. Symbols were drawn on it in careful, precise lines. Words in a language I didn't recognize. We need to mark ourselves, he said, pulling out a pen. Then we open the door and speak the words together. It should break the binding, free us from this place. Should. It's the best I've got. He drew one of the symbols on the back of my hand, then on his own. They looked almost like runes, angular and sharp. Ready? He asked. I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Marcus reached for the door handle. It was ice cold. I could see frost forming on the metal. He pulled, the door swung open silently. Beyond it was not a room, it was space. Vast, impossible space inside a building basement. Like looking into the night sky, but the stars were wrong, moving, pulsing, and there were things in that space. Shapes that hurt to look at, geometries that made my eyes water and my head pound. And somewhere in that darkness, something vast turned its attention toward us. I felt it like a physical weight pressing against my mind. It knew us, had always known us. We were already part of it, had been since the moment we'd signed those leases. Marcus began reading from the paper, his voice shaking but determined. The words sounded harsh, guttural. I tried to follow along, but the symbols swam before my eyes. The presence in the darkness grew agitated. The walls of the basement began to pulse, breathing, and I could hear sounds, voices, hundreds of voices, all the people who had been taken by this place over the decades. They were calling to us, pleading, help us, don't leave us, stay, stay, stay. Marcus grabbed my arm, read it with me now. I focused on the paper, forced the words out. They tasted like copper and ash. The darkness beyond the door began to writhe. Something was coming through, something massive, and I understood with sick certainty that we'd made a terrible mistake. We weren't banishing it, we were calling it forth. Marcus stopped, but he kept reading, faster now, desperate. The symbol on the back of my hand began to burn, actually burn, the skin blistering. The thing came through the door. I can't describe what it looked like. My mind refuses to hold the memory properly. It was everything and nothing, massive and impossibly small, ancient and hungry and asterisk-aware asterisk. It was the building. It was every room, every wall, every moment of time contained within this space. It was the apartment given form and presence, and it was furious. Marcus screamed. The paper in his hands burst into flames. The symbol on my hand burned brighter, white-hot agony. Run, Marcus shouted, and we ran. Back through the basement, up the stairs, the thing pursuing us. I could feel it, massive and inevitable, reality warping in its wake. We burst into the lobby, made it to the front door. Marcus hit it first, slammed into it, grabbed the handle. The door wouldn't open. He pulled, yanked, threw his weight against it. Nothing. We were sealed in, we turned. The thing was coming up from the basement, too large for the doorway, but coming through anyway, space bending to accommodate it. Upstairs, I gasped. Our apartments, we ran up the stairs to the second floor. My apartment door was open, waiting. We dove inside and I slammed it shut behind us. For a moment, silence. Then the walls began to close in. Literally, the apartment was shrinking, the walls moving inward, the ceiling lowering. In minutes, this space would collapse entirely. Marcus looked at me, understanding dawning. It's taking us, absorbing us. No, I looked around frantically. There had to be something, some way, the bookshelf. Where the dream door always appeared. I ran to it, started tearing books off the shelves, throwing them aside. Marcus understood and helped, and together we cleared the shelf. There on the wall behind it, almost invisible unless you knew to look, a seam, the outline of a door. How do we open it? Marcus asked. I didn't know. I pressed my palm against it, feeling for a latch, a catch, anything. The walls were 6 feet away now, still closing. I could barely breathe. Please, I whispered. Please, we just want to leave. And the door opened, swung inward to reveal the room from my dreams. The 1940s living room, warm and inviting, but it was empty now. No happy family, no comforting illusions, just a way out. We have to trust it, I said. That's insane. You have a better idea. The walls were 4 feet away. 3. Marcus looked at the shrinking apartment, then at the door. Together, we stepped through. I woke up on a sidewalk, morning light, cold concrete under my cheek, traffic sounds. I pushed myself up, disoriented. I was on N.W. Hoyt Street, but not in front of the building. I was 2 blocks away, lying in front of a coffee shop. People were walking past, giving me odd looks, but not stopping. My phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was 7:30 a.m., December 18th. The same December 18th when Marcus and I had done the ritual. I called his number. It rang and rang, no answer. I stood up shaky and started walking back toward the building, toward 1847 N.W. Hoyt. But when I got to where it should be, there was something different. The building was there. Same brick facade, same white-trimmed windows, but it was only 3 stories tall, not 4, 3. I stood there on the sidewalk, staring up at it, trying to reconcile what I was seeing. I counted the windows, confirmed the floors, 3 stories where there had been 4. My apartment, 201, couldn't exist in a 3-story building. I walked closer, checked the address plate beside the door. 1847 N.W. Hoyt. I pulled out my keys. The brass keys Mrs. Gaines had given me. I tried them in the front door lock. They didn't fit. Wrong keys for this lock, like they'd been meant for a completely different building. I pulled out my phone and searched for my banking app. Found my recent transactions. The rent checks I'd written, the ones I'd confirmed had been cashed. They weren't there. No record of them at all. I searched my email for the lease agreement. Not there. I checked my phone's photo gallery. The pictures I'd taken of the apartment, the ones with the figure in the hallway, deleted. Or maybe they'd never existed. I walked to my car, parked where I'd left it last night. Got in, sat there trying to process what had happened. Had I escaped, or had I never been there at all? I drove to my office even though it was Saturday. Used my key card to get in. Went to my desk, opened the drawer where I'd kept a copy of the lease. Empty. Just some pens and sticky notes and paper clips. I spent that whole weekend in a haze, trying to figure out what was real. I called my dad. He answered on the second ring, asked how I'd been, said he hadn't heard from me in a while, but that was normal. I was always so busy with work. I asked him if he remembered me moving to Portland. Of course, he said. You moved there in October for that marketing job. How's the new place working out? What new place? You told me you found an apartment. Near the Pearl District, you said. Dad, what's the address? How would I know? You didn't give me specifics. Why? Is something wrong? No, I said. Nothing's wrong, but I couldn't let it go. Over the next few days, I drove past the building on Hoyt Street a dozen times. It remained 3 stories, normal, unremarkable. I tried to find Marcus, called his number repeatedly. Always straight to voicemail. I looked him up on social media. No profiles. Did a background search online. Nothing. Like he'd never existed. Just like he'd warned would happen. I went to the building one more time, got up the courage to knock on doors. The person who answered at what should have been Unit 101 looked at me like I was crazy when I asked if they knew anyone named Marcus. Said they'd lived there 2 years and never heard that name. I asked how many floors the building had. They said 3, always had been 3 as far as they knew. I thanked them and left. I still live in Portland. I found a different apartment, a modern place in a boring complex where everything is beige and normal and safe. I go to work, I see friends, I date sometimes. I have a life. But I think about it constantly. That apartment, Marcus, the thing in the basement. Sometimes I'll be walking downtown and I'll pass that street. I'll look down toward where the building should be, and I swear sometimes I see 4 stories, just for a second in my peripheral vision, but when I look directly, it's always 3. Last week I was at a bar and overheard 2 people talking about apartment hunting. One of them mentioned finding this great place on a rental website, super cheap, too good to be true. I almost said something, almost warned them. But what would I say? That some apartments aren't real, that buildings can have extra floors that exist and don't exist, that you can get trapped in a space between walls and disappear from reality. Who would believe that? Instead, I asked what website they'd used. They looked at me, thought for a second, and said they couldn't remember the exact name, something like Padfinder or Rentseeker. I told them to be careful, to trust their instincts. If something feels wrong about a place, don't take it. They laughed and said thanks, but they weren't superstitious. I think about Marcus a lot. Wonder if he made it out too, or if he's still in there, somewhere in the walls of a building that might not exist. I hope he's okay. I hope he found his way to whatever passes for freedom in a situation like ours, but I don't know, and I think that's what haunts me most. Not knowing if I escaped or if I'm still there, dreaming of a normal life while the apartment slowly digests me. Sometimes, late at night in my new place, I'll wake up and the light will be wrong. That sourceless glow, like the walls themselves, are luminescent, and I'll lie there in the dark, afraid to check, afraid to confirm what I already suspect. That you can't really escape a place that's already made you part of itself. That somewhere in a building that's 4 stories and 3 stories and doesn't exist at all, my keys still fit the lock. And the door is always open, waiting for me to come home. I need to tell you what happened 3 weeks ago, because everything I just told you, I'm not sure anymore if it was real or if I'm still dreaming in that apartment. I was at work normal Tuesday afternoon when I got an email. The sender was listed as MG Unit 301, no email address shown, just that name. The subject line, "You need to remember." My hand started shaking before I even opened it. The email had no text, just an attachment, a photo. I downloaded it and my heart nearly stopped. It was a picture of me asleep in my bed in the apartment on Hoyt Street. But here's the thing, I was looking at this photo on my laptop, sitting at my desk in my current apartment, 3 years after I supposedly escaped. The photo was time-stamped, not from 3 years ago. From last night, I slammed my laptop shut, breathing hard, looked around my office. Everything was normal. Coworkers typing, phones ringing, the hum of the air conditioning. Real, solid. This was real, but my hand went to my phone. I opened my photo gallery, scrolling back, looking at pictures I'd taken over the past 3 years. My new apartment, dinners with coworkers. A hiking trip to Multnomah Falls I could have sworn I took last summer. I zoomed in on the hiking photo, looked at my face. My eyes, they were empty, completely empty. Like looking at a mannequin wearing my skin. I checked every photo. In every single one my eyes were dead, hollow. Nobody, just mine. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Danny, Marcus's voice, but wrong, distant, like he was calling from underwater. "Can you hear me? Marcus, where are you? How did you?" Listen carefully. You don't have much time. "Do you remember what I told you about trying to leave Portland? You said you couldn't get on the plane." "No, Danny. Think, really think. Have you tried to leave?" Even once, I opened my mouth to say yes, of course. I'd visited Chicago for Christmas. I'd gone to Seattle for a concert. The memories dissolved like smoke the moment I tried to focus on them. "Oh God," I whispered. "You need to look around right now," Marcus said. "Actually look, not at what you think is there, at what is there." I stood up from my desk, looked at my office. The fluorescent lights, the cubicles, my coworkers, and I let my eyes unfocus just slightly. The office flickered. For just a second I saw something else underneath, walls that were too close. Darkness, the texture of the office melted away and I could see my apartment, the apartment on Hoyt Street. I was sitting at my desk, the one I'd had in Unit 201, typing on my laptop. The office, my coworkers, all of it a hallucination, a dream the apartment was feeding me. I blinked hard and the office snapped back into place, but now I could feel it, the wrongness. The thinness of this reality. "It never let us go," Marcus said. "We're still there, Danny. We've been there the whole time. It's just making us dream we escaped, keeping us docile, happy." "While it feeds, how do I wake up?" My voice was breaking. "How do I get out for real? That's the thing." Marcus's voice was fading like a radio losing signal. "I don't think we can. I think we're already gone, absorbed, and these conversations we're having, these moments of clarity, maybe they're just the apartment playing with us, letting us see the truth before pulling us back under." No, there has to be. I'm sorry, Danny, I tried to warn you. I tried to. The line went dead. I looked down at my phone. The call log showed nothing. No missed calls, no recent calls at all. I sat back down slowly, looked at my computer screen. I'd been working on a marketing report. The words on the screen started to blur, rearrange themselves. They formed a sentence, "Welcome home, Danny." Then they shifted back to the report, normal, professional, like nothing had happened. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've been testing reality, trying to find the edges of the illusion. I pinch myself, I feel pain. I set alarms, they go off. I ask people questions about the past, they answer, but their answers are always vague, generic, like an AI generating plausible responses. "Hey, remember that time we all went to that bar downtown?" I asked a coworker. "Oh yeah, that was fun," she said, smiling. "What was the name of it?" She paused. "I don't remember. But it was a good time. What did we drink? The usual, you know." "What's my usual?" She looked at me, and for just a second her face went completely blank, empty. Then she smiled again. "You're funny, Danny. Get back to work. I tried to leave Portland last week, got in my car, started driving south toward Eugene. Made it about 20 miles before the road started to loop. I'd passed the same exit sign, the same gas station, over and over. After the 5th loop, I turned around. The moment I got back into Portland city limits, everything felt normal again. I went to the building on Hoyt Street yesterday, stood across the street watching it. 4 stories, definitely 4 stories. I crossed the street, walked up to the front door. It was unlocked. The lobby looked exactly as I remembered. The brass mailboxes, the tile floor, everything. I climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. Apartment 201, my old door. I stood in front of it for 10 minutes trying to decide whether to knock. Finally, I did. The door opened. I was standing on the other side, not a different person who looked like me. Me. Same clothes I was wearing, same expression of confusion and fear. We stared at each other. "You need to wake up," the other me said. "I am awake," I replied. "No, you're dreaming you're awake." We both are. There are hundreds of us now, all dreaming different versions of escape. The apartment keeps us separated, makes us think we're the real one. "How do I know you're not the dream?" I asked. The other me smiled sadly. "You don't, that's the point. We're all real. We're all dreams, we're all trapped." The door closed. I stood there in the hallway shaking. Then I walked up to the 3rd floor. Apartment 301, I knocked. Marcus opened the door. But he looked different, translucent almost. I could see through him to the apartment beyond. "Hey, Danny," he said tiredly. "Which version are you?" "What? I've had 17 Dannys visit me this month. All of them think they're the real one. All of them just figuring out they never left." He stepped aside. "Want to come in? I've got beer." Well, the idea of beer. I didn't go in, I ran, back down the stairs out of the building to my car, drove back to my apartment, my real apartment. But now sitting here I can see the walls breathing, the sourceless light is back, and I can hear voices in the other room, my voice. Multiple versions of my voice, all having different conversations with themselves. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if I'm typing this on my laptop or if I'm standing in an empty apartment, staring at a wall, hallucinating a life I never actually got to live. I don't know if you're real, if anyone listening to this is real, or if you're just another dream the apartment is feeding me. But I need you to know something, if you're apartment hunting. If you find a listing that's too good to be true, if you meet a nice older woman named Mrs. Gaines who offers you keys to a perfect place at an impossible price, don't take them. Because you won't just lose your apartment, you'll lose the ability to know what's real. You'll spend the rest of your existence, however long that is, wondering if you're awake or asleep. Free or trapped, alive or already gone, and the worst part, you'll never know the answer. My name is Danny. I live in Portland, Oregon, or I think I do. Or I'm dreaming that I think I do. And somewhere in a building that's 3 stories and 4 stories and doesn't exist at all, I'm still unpacking boxes, still settling in, still thinking I found the perfect place. The apartment on Hoyt Street is still listed online. I checked, I found it again yesterday. Different website, same listing, same price, same Mrs. Gaines' phone number. And the thing that scares me most, part of me wants to call her, part of me wants to go back. Because at least there, in that perfect apartment with the hardwood floors and the high ceilings, at least there, I knew where home was.